Have you ever felt like, no matter how hard you try, it's never enough? That your to-do list seems endless, and productivity has become an exhausting race with no finish line? We live in a world that glorifies constant busyness, where being productive means always doing something. But does this relentless pursuit actually make us more effective, or just more anxious and frustrated? What if I told you the answer to this cycle of burnout has existed for over 2,500 years? Buddhism teaches us that suffering arises from attachment and resistance to reality. And when we apply this principle to productivity, we realize something powerful. It's not the volume of work that drains us, but our relationship with it. Think about it. Why do we feel so much pressure to produce nonstop? The attachment to perfectionism makes us believe our worth is tied to how much we do. But this is a dangerous illusion. There will always be more emails to respond to, more goals to achieve, more tasks to complete. The feeling of never being enough comes from our unrealistic expectation of having total control over everything. Buddhism offers an alternative, the Four Noble Truths. First, recognizing that suffering exists. In the context of work, this means accepting that anxiety and overwhelm are part of our experience. Second, understanding its origin. The attachment to extreme productivity and constant comparison makes us believe that resting equals failure. But is being always busy really a sign of success? The third truth reminds us that suffering can end. When we release the need for control and accept that not everything will be perfect, we find more ease. And finally, the fourth truth presents the path to transformation: mindfulness, balance, and detachment. Imagine a glass of water with dough being shaken. It becomes murky and unclear. This is our mind when we try to do everything at once. But if we let the dough settle, the water becomes clear again. Similarly, by focusing on the present, our productivity becomes more fluid and sustainable. True success isn't about doing more, but about doing better, with presence, meaning, and balance. Are you ready for this change? Have you ever felt like, no matter how much you work, it's never enough? That your to-do list never ends, and no matter how hard you try, the sense of accomplishment never comes? In the modern world, productivity has become an almost unattainable ideal, and the price for this is high: anxiety, exhaustion, and constant dissatisfaction. Buddhism teaches that suffering is part of existence. It is not a failure, but an inevitable reality. In the context of work and studies, this suffering manifests in many ways: the guilt of not being productive enough, the overload that never allows for rest, and the fear of failure that paralyzes us. Imagine someone who, even after a full day of work, feels like they should have done more, or a professional who overburdens themselves, jumping from task to task, but never feels they've achieved something meaningful. And the student who delays deadlines out of fear their efforts won't be good enough. These are reflections of attachment to extreme productivity and resistance to reality. The truth is, we will never do everything. Why do we feel constantly exhausted, anxious, and dissatisfied with work? The second noble truth of Buddhism, Samudaya, teaches that suffering has an origin, and in the modern world, it manifests in the form of exaggerated productivity, without purpose and full of internal and external pressures. The first major villain of this cycle is attachment to perfectionism. We've been conditioned to believe that we are only valuable if we are 100% efficient all the time. Never make mistakes, never fail, never rest. But this expectation is impossible to reach, and the frustration of not meeting the standard keeps us trapped in a cycle of self-criticism and exhaustion. Another factor is constant comparison. Social media and performance metrics make us believe that everyone else is being more productive than we are. We see people posting their achievements, their perfect routines, and their apparent success, and feel inadequate. But what we don't realize is that this extreme productivity often comes with burnout, dissatisfaction, and invisible sacrifices. Furthermore, we live under the myth of multitasking and excess stimuli. We believe that doing many things at once is a secret to achieving more results. But science proves the opposite. Splitting our attention between numerous tasks reduces the quality of our work and increases stress. The constant notifications, deadlines, and distractions prevent us from focusing on what really matters, turning our minds into a battlefield of conflicting information. Now, imagine your mind as a glass full of mud. The more you stir it, the murkier it gets. Similarly, the more we try to control everything at once, the more confused and overwhelmed we become. Only when we stop and allow the mud to settle can we see clearly. Purposeless productivity traps us in an infinite cycle of dissatisfaction. But the simple act of recognizing this trap gives us the power to change. We can choose a different path, one where value lies not only in what we do, but in how we do it. A path where productivity is mindful, balanced, and aligned with what truly matters. True productivity isn't about doing more, but about doing better with awareness, balance, and purpose. The third noble truth of Buddhism, Nirodha, teaches that it's possible to break the cycle of suffering caused by obsession with productivity. We don't need to be slaves to endless to-do lists, crushing deadlines, and the constant need for external validation. We can work with ease, without losing efficiency. The first step towards this transformation is acceptance of impermanence. Not every day will be equally productive, and that's okay. There are times of high performance and times of rest. Resisting this reality only causes frustration. When we accept that productivity flows naturally, we can better manage our energy and avoid emotional burnout. Another essential point is focusing on the present moment. Instead of trying to do everything at once, we can apply mindfulness to our work. This means focusing on one task at a time, without the anxiety of what's yet to be done. Working with intention and presence allows us to produce more with less effort, reducing stress and increasing the quality of what we deliver. Additionally, it's vital to disconnect from external validation. The world teaches us to measure our value by external metrics, number of hours worked, number of tasks complete. The relentless pursuit of productivity often traps us in a cycle of anxiety and frustration. We think that to be successful, we must do more, accomplish more tasks, and always be busy. But is this the true path? Buddhism teaches us, through the third noble truth, Nirodha, that suffering can end, and this includes the suffering caused by obsession with productivity. True productivity isn't about doing more, but about doing better and with awareness. To achieve this, we must learn to let go of excess, detach from unnecessary pressure, and find a more balanced rhythm. The first step is acceptance of impermanence. Not every day will be equally productive, and trying to force constant performance only leads to exhaustion. Some days our energy will be high, and others not so much. When we accept this, we free ourselves from guilt and can honor our natural cycles of productivity and rest. Another essential point is focusing on the present moment. Our minds are always projecting into the future or reliving the past, which prevents us from fully concentrating on what we're doing. Practicing mindfulness at work means diving into each task with intention and presence, reducing mental overload and increasing the quality of what we produce. Additionally, it's vital to disconnect from external validation. Measuring success only by numbers, how many hours we work, how many tasks we complete, how many compliments we receive, makes us prisoners of metrics that don't always reflect our true progress. Great leaders and entrepreneurs understand this and cultivate mental clarity through mindfulness, prioritizing the real impact of their work rather than the number of tasks completed. And you can apply this change in your daily life with small steps. Start your journey with a few minutes of conscious breathing. Set times of focused work without distractions. And, above all, remind yourself that rest isn't wasting time, but an essential part of the process. When we detach from the idea that being busy equals success, we find a new path. A path where work becomes lighter, more meaningful, and aligned with what truly matters. The end of productivity suffering doesn't lie in doing more, but in finding balance and purpose in what we do. Conscious productivity is not about working more, but about working with purpose and balance. Buddhism teaches us, through the fourth noble truth, Magga, that there is a path to transform suffering into clarity and well-being. In the professional context, we can apply the 8 principles of the Noble Eightfold Path to create a healthier relationship with work. The first step is to develop right view, that is, setting realistic goals aligned with your personal values. Working without clarity on where you want to go causes frustration and wasted energy. By defining goals that make sense to you, your motivation becomes more natural and sustainable. By applying the teachings of Buddhism to productivity, we discover that work doesn't have to be a constant source of stress. When we understand the origins of our anxiety and adjust our relationship with time and tasks, we find a more sustainable rhythm. Small changes in the way we approach work make all the difference. True success isn't found in exhaustion, but in the balance between effort, rest, and purpose.